What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Action Network podcast presented by DraftKings. I am your host, Evan Abrams, and I am joined by Brandon Anderson for our NFL recap show. We will discuss everything we saw today and look ahead briefly to Monday night's game. Plus, we will get Brandon's hot read for next week's action so you get ahead on all of those lines. Now, before we get started, I'm just going to give you my one big stat of the day. To me, I thought this was actually pretty interesting, and I'll get Brandon's thoughts on it right as we finish. But how's this? So the 2025 Broncos are now the seventh team to have a win percentage of 80% or higher and be under 500 in their 12th game or later. 25 Broncos, 24 Chiefs. Now in 2022, we had the Chiefs, Vikings, Bills, and Eagles do this. And in 2020, we had the Chiefs. So Chiefs have now done it 3 times, Broncos this year. The thing that's interesting is obviously very high win percentage, under 500, so not covering. Something I feel like we've seen more of recently. Well, how about this? Since what was it? I said 12th game or later, since 2020. So since 2020, we've had 7 of those teams. Between 2000 and 2019, we only had 6. So what I'm thinking is very recently, inflated spreads, really good teams getting inflated spreads after wins. Lots more public money, lots more things of that nature. But Brendan, what do you think about that? So basically, 5 seasons, you've got 7 teams, really high win percentage, something like the Chiefs this year, the Broncos, just simply not covering games.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting really high spreads, and I think also, this is certainly the window you're referencing. I think is very much the window of betting exploding across the nation to a much more public area as well. So we know that sharps tend to bet underdogs and public tends to bet favorites, especially the big heavy favorites more often. So it's maybe there's some inflation there of just like, well, we're going to get that money anyway. So if we think it's 10, let's make it 12, let's make it 13, and we're going to get that money. It's hard. I think most of us betting and watching, listening right now have a pretty good feel for like, oh, it's -3 or it's 2 or it's 4. Those matter. Like I get the difference of that, or 6 or 7, that matters. Once it gets past 7, it's really esoteric of like, well, what's the difference between 8 and 10 really? Like how often is that going to matter? And how about 10 to 13? Sure. And so I think there's that part of it. And more too, we see teams being aggressive in those spots. We see teams going for 2, and it's kind of throwing off the spreads and some of those things as well. We had today 2 games that sat at 5.5 all week long, and I think closed at 5.5. And then we're sitting on 5 for much of the game near the end, and looked like that was going to be in play. And it used to be 5.5 was just no man's land. That just wasn't the number that mattered at all. So I think there's a lot of those factors in play. I will say this. Comparing Denver this year to the Chiefs last year is a great way to piss off both fan bases at once. So I'm here for that.
Yes, that is actually very true because both of them hate each other and no one would ever want to admit that they were anything like the other team. I've heard some 2022 Vikings. I've heard different things, but let's move on now. So Sunday Night Football, Lions, Eagles. Eagles end up winning the game 16-9, cover -2.5, total goes under 46. I'm kind of going to let you take this one because I felt like from the start, we all saw the win factor in this one. We all saw outdoors. We saw a really good defense with Philadelphia. And then basically we saw Goff really struggle with this one. I think by the time I just looked at the box score, there was like 23 incompletions in the game. He just never felt right. And Detroit's offense, obviously putting up only 9 points for what it's done in the past, really went nowhere in this one. And even only down 10 points, 7 points. Most of the game never felt like they were in it because they never put drives together. But what do you take from this game tonight and going forward?
Yeah, as someone that bet Detroit, and let's be real, I'm going to have some victory lapping on this podcast, but let's start with betting Goff for MVP because that is not one of them. And sometimes you put your bet in and the game starts and then like the camera pans over to the coach on the sideline and you just get that sinking feeling like, oh no, I forgot that's what I was betting on today. This was me tonight as the game starts. Goff throws that awful interception early that, credit Detroit only held them to a field goal defensively, but you just see like Jared Goff in the cold, in the wind, throwing that pick, and you're like, oh no, what have I done? Jared Goff outdoors. We knew. And it just, 14 of 37 on the night, minus 30 completion over expected, minus 30. That's like basically every time you throw 3 passes, one more than should have been completed ends up falling incomplete. And it kind of felt like that all night long. And it was not great. I think beyond Goff, he certainly was not good. But to me, the story of the game has to be all the fourth downs. Just constantly Detroit going for it. And I don't know. I don't know if I agree with you that it never felt like Detroit was in it, because it never really felt like Philadelphia could put them away either. And it was still right there. And even if Detroit converts one of those fourth downs, I think the whole thing changes a little bit. But they went 0 of 5 on fourth down today. They turned it over inside their own territory twice around midfield. They turned it over down on the 3-yard line once and did get points out of it. They started the second half, turnover and downs, 3 drives in a row. Coming out of the second quarter, where 2 of those 3 drives were turnovers on down. So 5 of 6 drives, not counting a kneel down to end the half, 5 of 6 drives, fourth down, they go for it, they don't get it. If you add all that up, on late downs, they had 18 third or fourth down plays this game, 17% success rate. So that means they were successful on 3 out of those 18 plays for minus 21 EPA. EPA is how many points you're adding. So in a game that was 16-9, the Lions lost 21 points on third and fourth down. That's how bad it was. Basically, every time they turn it over on fourth down is kind of like losing a field goal of value by EPA. And the Goff interception was a -6. So all that adds up to me, I feel like this was not Philadelphia winning this game, kind of like against Green Bay. This was Philadelphia being good enough and letting the opponent lose. And they did. And that's that. You get the W either way. But I didn't really see, certainly offensively, I didn't see anything the Eagles did that impressed me at all. Eagles defense does continue to improve and impress. Jalen Phillips, definitely a real addition, a chess piece there. But I don't know. The Lions did move the ball some. They just needed to get 1 or 2 of those fourth downs, and I think it's a different version, and they just never got one. And when you're going to be aggressive, I think sometimes you live with it. And I kind of think Dan Campbell will live with this. You want better execution from your quarterback, but you're going to go for those fourth downs and live with the results sometimes.
Yeah, there was also some injuries on the Philly side, right? On the offensive line, I believe Dickerson went down. What else did I miss? I think wasn't Jurgen hurt or something like that?
Lane Johnson went out for
Lane
around
Johnson.
half and didn't return, and Jurgens went out near the end of the game. I think
Got
earlier
it.
this week, 4 of their 5 linemen, so those are all offensive linemen, and 4 of the 5 were on the injury report earlier in the week. So definitely, these are teams that, like last year, we know I do my offensive line rankings. These were the gold star teams, 1 and 2 in whatever order. And I thought both lines were really lacking tonight. Like, I guess, how do we not lead with Detroit stopped the tush push like 3 times down the stretch? This should be like the story of the NFL. And on the other side, Detroit's once invincible offensive line is giving up pressure constantly now. We saw it against Minnesota in that game. We saw it again here. That was part of the Goff problem. He wants to be on time like anyone does, but he especially does. So, yeah, the line injuries and the line play, these are much closer to average offensive lines now compared to the gold star of the league. So that's kind of taking away from what both these teams want their identity to be.
Yeah, and I guess, I mean, you mentioned it, but when has Philly ever looked good in a win or put a team away? It just doesn't seem like something that they do week to week. So I feel like even when they win, even when they lose, you kind of have the same recipe of what you say about them, and it really doesn't matter because they don't do anything different anyway. I will say this. You made the point kind of that Detroit was in this game, not in this game. I mean, you scored 9 points. You go 3 of 18 third down and fourth down. Like, you had plenty of opportunities.
Yeah.
You were there the entire time, but it just had that odd feeling that, Philly's defense was never going to let them through. And that's why at the end, why not punt versus go for it? Like, they've shown you nothing the entire night to make you believe that Detroit was going to go all the way down the field. So interesting decisions nonetheless. I mean, 0 for 6 on fourth down between the two teams. So not your best play out there, but you ready to keep going here?
Yeah, interesting that Philly didn't go on fourth down the whole game. Like they actually gave up a couple times where they'd usually do a tush push and got conservative, which I think did show a bit of a lack of belief in their offense, but also a belief in their defense that they hadn't really had earlier in the year. That they were only 0 for 1 of that 0 for 6. And yeah, it was that bizarre one late where it was like, there's like 3 minutes left. The game is over if you just punt and defend here. And look, we should have had a real shot at an ending, and Detroit probably wasn't going to go down and score a touchdown.
Oh God, that call was
pass
terrible.
interference call, horrendous. Like I don't know what they're seeing on that. And Detroit would have had a real shot with like 2 minutes left and a timeout or two. So we probably weren't going to get it because they only really moved the ball on like a few explosives all night. Jamison Williams and a couple, Jahmyr Gibbs and a couple, but. You know, I'd love to see it. We watched for 3 hours. Could we actually get to see the 2 minutes we deserve at the end? And we didn't get it. So thanks to the refs. Thanks to the Eagles for another splendid night of football.
Yeah, both teams have some difficult schedules coming forward. I mean, the only thing you could say about the Lions, 3 straight home games coming up. But for Philly, Dallas, Chicago division leading Chicago, the Chargers, nothing crazy there. All right, let's keep going. Seattle and the Rams. So the Rams win this game 21-19. Seattle covers +3 on the road. Total goes under 49.5. I mean, you could probably say this throughout the game, but the first interception on the first drive for Seattle kind of had a inkling of something to come, I think, when you were watching this one. And you were going to be like, all right, well, is Darnold going to bounce back? Are we going to continue to see the same play over and over again? And we basically did. But I think the interesting thing about this game, before I toss it back to you, Rams run 21 first quarter plays, score 2 touchdowns, basically completely empty possessions after that point. Like we never really saw that same type of offense. They were basically gifted their third touchdown because of the Darnold interception. So what do you really make of this game? Because I always feel like I say that the Rams are complete. I have nothing to say about the Rams because they're great and they do everything the same every week. And it's what I kind of expect going to the playoffs. This one, a little bit weird to me. Like they started out so well and then they kind of were just gifted the game.
Yeah, I mean, their defense was good. Obviously, you earn the turnovers and they're forcing the plays there. But certainly their offense did feel like this was kind of given to them. It's funny that we know that MVP goes to quarterback wins with the Z, right? Matthew Stafford's going to have this as like the notch on his belt for the MVP race now. He wasn't really that good in this game. He wasn't terrible. Sam Darnold was terrible. Stafford was not terrible. They got the win by 2. But like Stafford finishes -17 completion over expected, 5.5 ADOT, negative EPA per play, 130 yards on the game. Nothing about that is MVP. We had other MVP type games today. That wasn't it, but it's going to go on the resume as the big win in the big game, a few weeks when we kind of forget about the performance. If you take the turnovers away, which is, of course, not a real sentence in football, but outside of those 4 huge plays, Seattle dominated in this game. 414 yards to 249 yards. They more than double the first downs of the Rams, 26-12, nearly double time of possession, 38 minutes to 22. They dominated on third down. 7 of 16 conversion. The Rams were 2 of 11. Like any stat that you're choosing, Seattle is moving the ball and stopping the ball. Like you said, the Rams moved it early and then they just got the water turned off after that. And Seattle's defense was so good in this game. Seattle finishes 46% success rate. That's fine. That's kind of around average. Rams 37%. That's a really low number for a team as good as the Rams. And the problem is 2 things. Seattle goes 1 of 4 in the red zone, and we kept getting all the field goals, and you lose by 2. Guess what? Turn 1 field goal into a touchdown. Lose by 2 means win by 2 instead. So that's pretty easy math there. And then, of course, the main thing is just Sam Darnold. 4 interceptions on the game, and they're just so damaging. I looked it up. Those 4 interceptions cost them 24 EPA. Again, in a 21-19 game, that's 24 points, basically, that, frankly, they gave the Rams. The Rams had 2 short field touchdowns because of Darnold's interceptions. By win probability, just those 4 plays, 51% win probability added to the Rams by Darnold giving them the ball. So, to me, Seattle looked much the better team in this game, but Stafford wasn't really the better quarterback. He just wasn't the worst quarterback. Darnold cost Seattle the game. As a Vikings fan, Sam Darnold in a big game against the Rams costing the game, a lot of PTSD for me today.
I mean, yeah. So looking at the MVP odds right now, and you kind of mentioned it, Stafford the favorite at plus 150, and you're not even going to remember this game. Like you're going to look back at whatever the end numbers are, and especially now Stafford, 27 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, but he wasn't great today. But he just tacked on, like 2 touchdowns, no picks, just makes his record look ridiculous. Only quarterback with 27 touchdowns, 2 picks or less through this many games, Mahomes in 2020, who literally had the exact same numbers. The one that will probably stand above all, especially because we've got more to come. Stafford now 6-0 straight up versus the Rams, versus the Seahawks as a member of the Rams.
Wow.
So they've really done their job in that scenario. The other thing I feel like we kind of have to discuss when talking about Seattle, yes, the 4 interceptions, but JSN has really ascended to like in his own territory in these types of games. Like there really isn't much else there. Like we see some other receivers do some things. There's some nice tight end work in Seattle as well. But JSN, like especially with the one-handed catch today, that just unbelievable how easy he makes all that stuff look. I'll put just a number or two behind this. So this stat was everywhere, which is first player NFL history records 75 plus receiving yards, 10 straight games to begin a season. This one to me is crazier. So he's got 1,000 receiving yards plus right now. But he's got 16.5 yards per reception through 10 games with those 1,000 yards. Just for some perspective here, the last receivers to do that, 1,000 plus yards, 16.5 or higher through 10 games, Julio Jones 2016 and Megatron did it in 2012 and 2013. So that's kind of territory right now through 10 games, JSN keeping, and he's got Tennessee next. So Tennessee's not the worst defense, but also definitely something that can be beat. So I think with Seattle coming up, Tennessee, Minnesota, Atlanta. I mean, Jesus, Atlanta. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But I think there's some good things for Seattle to come here. And again, I wrote this down from Seattle's point of view. Something to really be said about how well everyone else and everything else looked other than Darnold. And that's all really you can ask for when you go forward.
Yeah, and Seattle 7-3 now, so they're a game back in the division, but I think they're probably favored every game the rest of the year. The return game here will be, of course, in Seattle. It's a Thursday nighter. It's our last really big Thursday night game, December 18th. Mark that one on your calendar. We actually got to watch a Thursday night game for once. Rams, I will say, a bit of caution. Not necessarily like from this game, I don't believe in them anymore. Nothing like that. Just the Rams still next week, Sunday night, Bucks. So that's a big game, and the Bucks really need it. We'll see with that one. The Rams are heavily favored, but we'll see. They've still got Detroit. They still have Detroit. Then after Detroit, that's the short week game in Seattle Thursday night. So not a great setup there. I think we dare not just lock in Rams Eagles as the top 2 NFC seeds. I know these were the 2 huge NFC games that we're leading with here, but I think really, to me, Seattle showed is just as good here. I thought Detroit looked just as good. I think both of those teams are very much still in the mix for the top seeds, and that maybe this result could end up kind of giving some overconfidence in the Rams. And I'm not really even looking to fade the Rams per se, just maybe a chance to buy low on Seattle a touch, buy a little bit low on Detroit. I think very much we have a long way to go here. And of course, it's not even Thanksgiving yet, but the both the losers in the game we just talked about, I think are very much in the mix going forward. And I could argue maybe are the 2 most complete teams right now in football, even though they both lost today.
Yeah, I think you're right. I just wish I didn't have to buy low as a 12.5-point favorite on the road against the Titans next week. But maybe another time for that. The one injury, Tyler Higbee, ankle sprain, unsure in severity, so we will see. Unfortunately, Terrence Ferguson might get some playing time. Not today.
Not too much.
Not today. Okay, moving on to our next game here. Chiefs-Broncos. We alluded to this before. We will hit on it now. So Denver wins this game 22-19, covers the +4 at home. Total goes under 44.5. Listen, like early on, and I wrote this in my notes, it didn't really end up coming to fruition, but I feel like it's just the same story every week with Denver. Denver gets inside the KC 11-yard line twice inside the first two drives, both end with field goals. And honestly, any other time you would say, oh, that's something you can't do against Kansas City. Can't get that deep and just kick field goals. You'll end up paying for it. They didn't really end up paying for it because their defense just ends up bailing them out every single week. And that's pretty much what happened here. KC, 5 of 14 on third down, fourth down combined, 1 of 4 in the red zone. And overall, I think there's certain stats that'll point you in both directions. But I think Bo Nix outplayed Pat in this game mostly. The penalties is something that will just blow your doors off. 10 of 147 for the Broncos in this game, and that's on the winning side. So pretty ridiculous. And I think the other, if you were going to put up like sirens, looking at kind of the whole Broncos game here, 21 of 59 on the ground, 2.8, and a long rush of 8 would be an issue in your first game without J.K. Dobbins. But other than the obvious, what do you take from KC Denver?
Yeah, I kind of just felt like this was the exact game that I was expecting to get out of this, just not really knowing how the ending would come up. As you were talking, that dawned on me, and I pulled up my notes going into the game of as I was kind of filtering through what do I like. And of course, I was under on this game. The under did hit, but our mine shaft kind of fell apart near the end. So in my notes, I have both defenses definitely have the advantage, should be close in the fourth quarter. And then here are the bets I wrote down. Mine shaft under, either team to win by under a touchdown, either team to win by exactly a field goal. Just feels like whoever has the ball last wins by a field goal. And then here we are. That's basically the game we saw. Like you go down the line on the stats, you basically just see, we said at the top, these teams don't want to be compared to each other. I thought this is just an even game between two slightly above average teams right now. Like the stats are pretty even. The quarterback play pretty even in this game. Like by a lot of the stats and the EPAs and those things, pretty much about the same. So Denver, you're going to not be happy to be compared to Kansas City here. Kansas City, you're not be happy that Mahomes is equal to Bo Nix, as you should not be happy about that. So underrated play that I think we kind of forget about. The Chiefs get the touchdown late. That seems like it's going to be enough, but they missed the extra point. So what would be a 4-point lead turns into 3. And I know Denver scored 6 after that. But does Denver kick the first field goal if it's not tying, but keeping them down by 1? Probably not. They probably have to go for it. And Denver hadn't shown they could convert in the red zone and actually finish the job. So I kind of think that missed extra point maybe a little bit underrated here. Denver now 8-game win streak. Whatever we have to say about them, the W's are adding up. You know, all the teams you compared them to. The Chiefs, of course, last year 10-0 in one-score games. This year 0-5 so far. So regression can be a real dick sometimes, and it has come hard for the Chiefs. These teams play Christmas night. That's the next time. And by then, it might not really matter for Denver, if we're being honest. They are kind of really out ahead here in the division, 9-2 now. I guess somehow it's a Bo Nix and Daniel Jones AFC world that we are living in. I don't really know how we got here, but I'm not sure I enjoy it that much.
Drake May. Little Drake May as well. To back up your stat, how about this one? I looked this one up before. Everyone's talking about the one-score games. KC had won 17 straight one-score games before the 5-game losing streak. So that is real regression. I believe they also haven't fumbled yet this year. So there is so much still going in their direction. I feel like they're also positive. I think I'll look this up. Positive turnover differential. Like there's a lot of things still good on KC's side. Yet they're 5-5 and they've lost 5 games already. Pretty crazy. Mahomes 18-2 straight up on the road in the AFC West. Both losses to the Broncos. And Denver trailed in this game because it did go back and forth. So they've now trailed in all 11 games this year. They're 9-2 straight up, 5-6 against the spread in those games. And we had talked about this last week. Last week, it was more of a joke. This week, probably not as much of a joke, but KC to make the playoffs. Now, -220, +176 to miss. You're better at this than I am. Is it 2 games, 1.5 games because of Jacksonville and the tiebreak? Something like that.
I haven't
Something like
looked
that.
from post today, but I did look ahead. I'm not still worried about Chiefs making the playoffs. So they're 5-5. They play the Colts next, so they could be 5-6. That is very much in play right now. But if they're 5-6, then I think is the time to buy in and get that playoff ticket, something approaching even odds. Because here's the final 6 games after Indy: Cowboys, Texans, Chargers, Titans, Broncos, that other game in Kansas City on Christmas, and then Raiders. I maybe I'm holding on to what the old Chiefs were, and I know like that Mahomes' feeling of invincibility doesn't seem quite to be there the way it once was. I have a really hard time finding a loss anywhere in those 6. If the Chiefs are like 5-6 and we're staring down the barrel of missing the playoffs, you're losing to the Cowboys. You're getting swept by the Chargers. You're losing to the Broncos in the return game in Kansas City on Christmas night. I can't live in that world yet with this team. So I don't feel that bad about them here. I don't want to be the 6 or 7 seed because you got to go on the road and win 2-3 games to get to the Super Bowl. So long-term futures, which is the only thing that matters for the Chiefs, not great. But I do think they're still going to get to the playoffs. But it increasingly looks like it's going to be very much on the road, and that they're also going to not really have any rest. They're going to have to push all the way now to get there. Those sorts of things are going to matter and make the road much harder once they do get there. Denver 9-2 into the bye week now. Then they come out Washington and Vegas after that. So we're looking at 11-2 Denver with the tougher closing schedule, but they might be in the push for the 1 seed at this point, which Denver at home in the 1 seed definitely makes them a threat with that defense, the Denver home advantage. It's also interesting because we know how the 1 seed is heavily an MVP experience. Denver's not going to give us an MVP. So if they're taking a spot that high, it's like freeing up MVP to an NFC 1 seed or to a 2 seed or something like that. So those are some of the things kind of futures wise that I have my eye on. I'm not panicked on the Chiefs. I'm only even slightly concerned as far as make the playoffs, but I'm certainly not looking at Mahomes MVP. I'm not looking at Chiefs futures to make or win the Super Bowl. It's just increasingly too steep of an ask for this team, considering that the prices aren't really discounted at all right now.
Yeah, I kind of wish the entire Denver defense could win MVP, but we're like a Drake May and a Matthew Stafford bad game away from that article coming out. We'll just give it to the entire defense. Kansas City, I think I disagree only in one fact. So next 4 games, 3 at home, but it's Indy, Dallas, Houston, Chargers. All 4 of those teams really, really, really need those games. Like that is a really difficult 4-game stretch of just different types of opponents. Like if Kansas City, they really need to go 3-1 or 4-0 in those games. Like obviously based off the 5-5 record, but before you get to that Tennessee game, and that's in Tennessee, not easy. So I don't know. I talked about KC no playoffs last week as even an option. Obviously, if you took that ticket, you want nothing here. I think you kind of wait and see against the Colts, but getting kind of hairy.
It's going to be tough. They certainly have not given themselves a lot of margin for error. They are probably feeling good to be in the AFC right now, not the NFC.
Yeah. All right. So before we move on, don't forget to sign up for Action Pro for real-time pick alerts from experts like Brandon Anderson, Chris Raybon, Stuckey, our entire Action Network team. Plus, you can access our pro projections powered by Sean Kerner and our predictive analytics team. Just go to actionnetwork.com/pro. Get $20 off the annual price with the promo code POD20, POD20. Don't miss out on the best bets at the best prices. Visit actionnetwork.com/pro. Use the promo code POD20 to get $20 off a year of Action Pro. All right, a little bit shorter recaps here as we roll through these games. Buffalo wins 44-32. Cover -6.5 on close at home. Total goes over 46.5. The one thing that I thought was kind of fun here, at least recently, so you had 76 total points in this one. Total goes over by 29.5, almost 30 points over the total. We've actually had 3 straight weeks now where a total has gone over by 29.5. Week 8, that crazy Jets-Cincinnati game Week 9, the crazy Cincinnati Bears game, and now Tampa Bay and Buffalo. So you have had some real easy over cashes the last 3 weeks. But when I watched this game just overall, I feel like I kept saying to myself, even though 76 total points were scored, I was missing like really big name wide receivers and like talented players, because Buffalo kind of just doesn't have that. Josh Allen, 6 touchdowns at himself, but it wasn't like Khalil Shakir plays the entire game, does absolutely nothing. There is no Dalton Kincaid, since Dawson Knox is out there. So, and obviously no Godwin, no Evans. Like, I just felt like even though we got that many points on the board, I was missing some things from the game because it just ended up turning out to be a Josh Allen hero fest. But I mean, Buffalo goes for 7.8 yards per play. Josh targets 10 different players. Like, it was his game, and that's what the way it kind of turned out, especially Baker didn't exactly play well. So what do you take from Bills Bucks?
Yeah, I mean, Josh targeted a couple of bucks early as well. So let's not forget that kind of left the game open early on. But when you get 3 rushing and 3 passing touchdowns later, and we finish the game basically at a 0.5 point EPA per play for the game, even with those 2 rough interceptions, you know you're putting up crazy production when you end up that positive, even with 2 huge mistakes. I will say, though, Sean Tucker erasure. Our guy put up 106 rushing yards and 3 scores for the Buccaneers, making a name for himself out here. So,
how many benches do you think Sean Tucker was on today with people being like, Rashad White? I mean, he's got to get all the carries and this and that. Yeah. Sean Tucker, literally ridiculous.
Yeah, you love your Sean Tucker spot start in your 16-team home league, right? That's basically the only ones where he's getting in. Bill's special teams played a big role both directions. They activated Mecole Hardman, and he got a big return on his first touch, and he fumbled his second touch. So it just, I don't really have a lot of takeaways to go forward from this game. It just was the fun game of the day. My buddy Ryan went to this game, this first game he's ever gone to in Buffalo. You get the cold, you got some flurries late. I think we had 9 lead changes in this game, just back and forth and wild production, 76 points. Like, this is the full Buffalo football game experience. And you get to see Josh Allen, the defending MVP, like, make the big plays, and the Bills pull away late. And I feel like this is just kind of what these teams are. I don't think we necessarily learned a lot. We just saw both teams kind of hit their barrel, and neither defense could really do much. A couple times Buffalo got a couple stops late, and that turned out to be enough. Bucks now have lost 3 of 4. They are 6-4. They're technically tied in the win column with the Panthers, but they play Rams next week. The Panthers could go ahead of them. Panthers and Buccaneers are Sunday and Monday night next week. So we'll be talking those when we are here a week from now. But after the Rams game, the Bucs still go Cardinals, Saints, Falcons, Panthers, Dolphins, Panthers. So if you want to believe in the Panthers, they get both Buccaneers games in the last 3 weeks of the season. But to me, that just reads, I can't panic with the Buccaneers. They're fine. Bucky will be back soon enough. Godwin will be back soon enough. They kind of went toe-to-toe with the Bills here and then just ran out of gas in the fourth quarter. Seems mostly okay to me. I don't know that I take too much away from either team here.
I would say from Buffalo's standpoint, my one worry, their pressure. So 6 of 35 dropbacks on Baker pressure today, 6 of 23 versus Tua last week. Better percentage there, obviously, but still not a ton overall. Now, coming up, I don't know what you're going to get next. It's a Thursday Night Football. I assume it's CJ Stroud, but after that, you could have Mason Rudolph and then Joe Flacco, or maybe Burrow comes back. Either way, I think they're going to have to get some more pressure and kind of help out the time of possession a little bit to keep the offense off the field, helping out.
I'm not so sure it'll be CJ Stroud personally. On a short week when you haven't cleared concussion protocol in 2 weeks, like if he's not out, if you're listening to this on like Monday afternoon, mid-afternoon, and CJ Stroud is not cleared, I don't know if there's even enough time at that point to get him cleared and on the field and practice. Like, it is a rough spot for Houston, who needs badly this to get him back. You don't want Davis Mills going against Buffalo, and frankly, it'd be a really nice Thursday night matchup for us. So hopefully we get Stroud back out there.
Yeah, and I think the one worry, and this stat kind of blew me away. I had this in my primer, but with the Bucs loss Todd Bowles now 5-25 straight up as an underdog versus a team with a double-digit win total. So really best in the NFL, underdog in the game. Bowles is an underdog, also been terrible. And in this one, they just look discombobulated. But again, I kind of just give Baker a little bit of credit. The passing yards weren't there, but you're without so many targets. Like, I feel like between Bucky and Godwin and Evans, like, they just need to start getting people back, or they're just going to hand this division to Carolina. All right. Anything else here?
No, let's go to Carolina. Panthers Island, baby.
Here we go. Unreal. So Carolina wins this game 30-27, covers +4 on the road. Total goes over 42. My first line here is Bryce Young, holy crap. 31 of 45, 448. That's probably 3 games in total at some point in his career. 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, plus 14.9 total expected points added in this game. He had 20 passing first downs in this one. So Carolina makes the red zone 6 times in this game. The last time they did that, week 18, also versus Atlanta. Carolina has scored now 60 points versus Atlanta in their 2 games this year. This matchup, and I think that's what I ended up keying on when I was doing my research pre-week, and then even looking at past games between these 2 teams. This one just sucks. And I'll talk about Atlanta again in a second, for Atlanta in like their history and, things that they, when they have to win these games late season against Carolina, they seem to just keep rolling the same egg.
Yeah, look, Carolina just, again, is better in the underdog script than there is the favorite. And even despite all that, so look, Panthers +3.5, Panthers money line. We did look ahead. We did hot read. This is what I built the pick 6 around. We hit the pick 6 +854. This is the one. I don't even really think I got the read right, to be honest. Like, the thing that I liked about the game was Panthers run the ball, Panthers stop the run. None of those things happened in this game. Panthers had a 23% success rate running the football. They had 1 first down, I believe, running the football all game. They were even worse on early downs. I was not banking on 448 Bryce Young passing yards today. That wasn't the cap. And by the way, the Falcons ran the ball pretty well. Bijan had 100 yards, 2 scores. Atlanta had 11% higher success rate for the game. Tet McMillan was a monster. Wasn't counting on that one either.
Yeah.
Really, it's both quarterbacks, I think, that swung the game. Or I guess I should say all 3 quarterbacks, because Bryce was great, but Penix was really pretty good. Then he leaves with a knee injury. And now Kirk Cousins comes in. He goes 6 of 14 in relief. You can't really see a whole lot there, but the underlying numbers, Penix is 0.65 EPA per play. Cousins goes negative 0.13, and it goes from 16 completion over expected to -28. That's it. That's the game. The Falcons are ahead. Penix goes out. Cousins can't do anything. The Panthers come back and finish the game off. And that was basically it. And the Falcons are now 3-7. Penix hurt the same knee that he already missed a game with earlier in the year and has a lot of injury history. Drake London had a knee injury. It doesn't look too serious, but you never know. At 3-7, that's probably it. Like, this was the shot for Atlanta to get back maybe into even the division race here. Instead, don't forget, as we talk about Michael Penix, they traded a first-round pick next year to get into the first round this year to support Penix and get James Pierce, one of the pass rushers that not even doing a lot right now. That pick right now is like a possible top 5 pick by going to the Rams, by the way. So as far as how the Rams feel about their draft picks, they're just sitting on one right now as Atlanta kind of tailspins down. But from this particular game, look, even the last time Carolina won 30-0 earlier in the year, I remember out of that one, it was like, oh, okay, what's the damage? Oh, actually, it doesn't look that bad for Atlanta. But Atlanta, get the win. Stop not looking that bad. You can't just get swept by Carolina out of the season, basically. So, yeah, Carolina, they're another team today that played aggressive and didn't take the points, and it nearly cost them the game, but it came back around eventually to get there. 6-5 now for Carolina. They're hanging right there. We have the biggest Carolina game in years, at least, next Monday night at San Francisco. Really important. because San Francisco ostensibly is a team that Carolina is vying for the same playoff spot. So that's a head-to-head spot for them. If you believe in the team, they're going to have to prove it because it's Niners, then the Rams, and then they close the last 3 weeks with Bucks, Seahawks, Bucks. So if you want to believe in Panthers, you better really believe in the Panthers. And I got to tell you, I believed in the Panthers today. We made some money off of them. I do not believe in the Panthers in those games coming up. Don't get too excited. They got a couple nice underdog scripts here. I think we kind of lucked into this one. I thought Atlanta was probably the better team and lost because the quarterback got hurt and because they're Atlanta, and that's what they do.
Yeah, Carolina has now won 3 straight on the road. They were 3-19 straight up on the road before this streak. So that just gives you some perspective on where they are currently. I think the thing for Atlanta, and I'll put some data behind this as well. So last 4 years since 2022, Falcons have lost both straight up and against the spread in 4 straight games in week 10 or later against the Panthers. In all 4 of those games, Atlanta was the favorite. So really just derailing their season every single year facing Carolina in this situation. They just continue to drop an egg. Here's one that's crazy to me. Last 4 games, whether it's been Penix or Kirk, 6 of 21 passing to Darnell Mooney. Like we saw that 1 of 8 game, but even today, 6 of 21 over the last 4 games feels near impossible. I believe Drake London also hurt in this game. We'll have to see severity of injury going forward, but it just seems like it's kind of over for Atlanta. Here's the last stat I'll give you. This one's just nutto. So the Falcons are 0-7 this year when their opponent leads by more than a field goal. 4 points or more. That's it. Atlanta hasn't won a game. They've lost 9 in a row when the opponent has led by just 4 points or more at any point in the game. 1-13 last 14. Only win was beating the Giants 34-7, which isn't a comeback at all. So this Atlanta team, yes, they run the ball really, really well. They've got nothing else figured out. But that 0-9 stat, just crazy.
Yeah, that's rough.
All right, let's keep going here. Jacksonville Chargers, speaking of rough. Jacksonville wins the game 35-6. Covers +3 at home. Total under 43.5. Blowout city. This one was crazy. I mean, the Chargers, here are the drives. Punt, field goal, punt, punt, interception, turnover on downs, game over. To be clear, Herbert, 10 of, like the numbers don't even look real. This almost looks like the first quarter and a half sometimes. Like 10 of 18, 81 yards, an interception. And Trey Lance shows up out of nowhere. Like most people even forgot like he was even around. Like, Herbert's playing bad enough where we're just going to introduce Trey Lance into the situation. But the thing that's crazy about this game, like you expect to look at the other side and be like, oh my God, Trevor Lawrence, what a performance. 14-22, 153, touchdown and a pick, and a negative completion percentage over expected. Like there was nothing going on in this game that led either offense. I mean, the best thing about this game was Bilal Tutin, and he ends up getting hurt. The biggest here's the one, and then I'll toss it to you. The biggest play by expected points added was the Herbert interception in the fourth quarter, down 28-6. Like nothing happened in this game.
Yeah, I know. And I know when we kind of to go pull back the curtains here, as we're kind of organizing our rundown, we're sort of sorting the games into the big ones, the medium ones, and the skip 'em games. And you had this in the skip 'em right off the bat, and I kept moving it up, and you kept moving it down. I was like, no, I have something to say about this game. So here's the thing. I have very little to say about this game. However, this particular game was one of the biggest swing games for playoff factors so far in the season, even though the game itself is not that interesting. Just a couple comments on the game. Chargers, 135 yards total for the game, 210 yards less than the Jaguars, 30-8 on first downs. The one thing about Herbert that he did do, he led the team in rushing with 21 yards. He had 21 yards, and the rest of the team had 21 yards on 13 runs. So in the meantime, Jacksonville, you gave Lawrence's stats, but Jacksonville ran the ball 47 for almost 200 yards and 4 scores. So just to me, red flags everywhere for Chargers, where if they win this game, I think they were going to like 90% plus on playoff probability. Now you have both trenches in shambles. Their line is all in the hospital. They can't run block to save their lives. and they can't stop the run. The Jaguars just ran 200 yards on them. Chargers are in their bye week now. They need it, but they could use like a bye month. Then they play the Raiders. But after that, they still have Eagles, at the Chiefs, at the Cowboys. We know how Dallas is at home. Texans, at Denver. That's a tough schedule, man. Like, that is a rough closing schedule. And now they lost head-to-head to the Jaguars, who are the most likely team charging for that playoff spot if the Chargers fall back a little bit. Jacksonville goes at Arizona, winnable next week. They still play Tennessee twice, does Jacksonville. They get the Jets as well. They do play the Colts twice and the Broncos. So, but there are winnable games there for Jacksonville. And I think this game itself was the one that just went straight off, like not even in the quad box on YouTube TV today, just nothing. But the result of the game, I thought, is going to end up being one of the more important results going forward. And I gave out a week ago, Chargers missed the playoffs. Then we came here at the end of a Chargers game where they knocked out the Steelers and looked really good. Well, this is the other side, and this is my fear about the Chargers, is what we saw in this game, which was hopefully very little because it was terrible.
Yeah, this one you mentioned it, but the Chargers really needed this game. I mean, right before the bye as well, like the opportunity to take this one away. And you mentioned the Chargers schedule, complete opposite for Jacksonville. The easiest schedule in terms of strength of schedule, the remaining, and they face the Titans twice, the Jets, and the Cardinals still. So the Jaguars getting this win just really propels them forward, in my opinion. Like, the opportunity is all there. I think the thing that kind of just sucks, you're not getting Travis Hunter back at any point. Brian Thomas Jr. didn't play in this game. You probably should get him back at some point. Like, there's lots to maybe look forward to in terms of Jacksonville. Like, you're not even playing well, and you're just kind of stacking up wins. So, and especially the team chasing you already beat them head to head. So in terms of the Chiefs, it just, things are oddly looking up in a team that has nothing to look up to. It's an odd situation and a real dominating win. The one stat I'll give you before we move on, Justin Herbert now 14-23 straight up versus teams above 500. The worst mark on the money line of any QB since he entered the league. His 23 straight up losses are now, I'm trying to think. Oh, now, okay, that's actually funny. So now they are one behind Baker, who he was tied with. Baker now leads with 24, updating that in my head. All right, let's move on here. Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh wins this game 34-12, covers -5.5 at home, total under 47.5 on close. The final score definitely not indicative of kind of how close it was early, but the whole headline is probably Aaron Rodgers. So Rodgers gets hurt at the end of the first half. Doesn't start the second half. Cincinnati starts off with the ball in the second half, and we kind of start seeing Mason Rudolph warming up on the sideline, so that decision definitely gets made at some point in there. But listen, it's just 10-9 Steelers when Rudolph enters the game. So at that point, anything can happen. And Rudolph played well. I mean, a 15-play drive to a field goal, a 12-play drive to a touchdown pass. Both drives together take up almost 14 minutes of the game. Really just made it impossible for Cincinnati to do much. And Flacco, really with any opportunity, didn't do much anyway. But, I mean, I think the worry over anything you take here is Cincinnati really would have liked this one, especially with the Burrow news that he could be coming back a little bit earlier. But this is a Pittsburgh story to me.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's defense looked really good in this game, and they've looked really pretty good now the last few games. I know they lost last week, but the defense wasn't at fault there, really. And, yeah, Aaron Rodgers definitely feels like the story. I will say this, though. You said Aaron Rodgers has to be the story. I disagree, my friend. Kenneth Gainwell is the story.
Yeah, that's
Kenneth
fair.
Gainwell finding the end zone, plus 470 on the touchdown, and 75-1 on the two touchdowns. So we got them both receiving. We said that was a possibility. We got a little lucky. Warren went out for a while, so we got a little extra run for Gainwell, but we'll take it. 75-1. That's a fun one. Shouts to Joe House over at the Ringer. I know he was on that one as well. So glad to be able to get one of those long shots. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers, a bigger story here. I think they said a slight break in the left wrist, which look, I'm 42. That's basically the same as Rodgers. Slight break in the left wrist. Like, I'm going on workers' comp. I can't do my articles anymore. Like, slight break in the left wrist. I'm pretty cooked over here. So I don't know what we're going to get out of Rodgers going forward. I think in this game, though, it's kind of inflated on the score line because Pittsburgh scores 2 defensive touchdowns, which they count, but are kind of not really something to count on. Pittsburgh, that's the only 2 turnovers. Cincinnati 0 of 2 in the red zone. So that's it. That's the game. They're basically close to even otherwise. A slight advantage Pittsburgh on the game, but you get a blowout because those 2 turnovers go the other way for 6, and then Cincinnati just can't score when they get in there. A note that Jamar Chase and Jalen Ramsey kind of got into a quote scuffle, and I believe Ramsey got ejected. Usually when a player gets ejected, they don't also get suspended because they kind of already gotten their 1-game penalty, but I think it was in the second half. So something to keep an eye on. We'll see if anything else comes out of that. I don't feel terrible about the Bengals out of this one. I know it's like a pretty ugly score line, but Burrow coming back soon, Trey Hendrickson coming back soon. It's a rough stretch coming up, but it's a rough stretch against teams that if the offense is firing, that they can beat and that they can kind of control their destiny somewhat. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, 6-4. Next week, Pittsburgh, Chicago. I think that's the fraud off, right? I think that's the matchup coming up that we're not going to talk too much about Chicago. I'm trying to see in the comments here. Mock Rivers says Chicago 7-3 with a -6 point differential. So that's the Bears. These are the Steelers. I think that's the fraud off next week. But after that, Steelers go still Bills, Ravens, Dolphins, who are kind of getting good now, Lions, Browns, who are always tough, and then Ravens again. So Pittsburgh not out of the woods by any stretch, especially if Rodgers doesn't play. And let me just stop anyone that's going to go there. No, Rudolph is not an upgrade over Aaron Rodgers. I know he looked good today for a half. It's the Bengals who don't have a defense. No, Mason Rudolph is not an upgrade over Aaron Rodgers. Don't be ridiculous. If Rodgers is out a while, even for a short stretch, Pittsburgh definitely still is not safe for the playoffs or for that 500 streak or anything else. This is not a dominant win. This is a win that the defense got them over the line with good play and then the 2 big plays.
Yeah, I was just looking right now. Right now, to miss the playoffs, Steelers -210. So this is like you might be looking at them in division, kind of looking up at Baltimore, but Pittsburgh has a long way to go. And that schedule, like you mentioned it, Chicago, I mean, is what it is, kind of go either way. But Buffalo, Baltimore, Detroit, and then you say Cleveland, it's at Cleveland. We've seen what at Cleveland can do, especially to a quarterback maybe coming off an injury. From Cincinnati's standpoint, the only other mark I have here is they really can't win any game no matter how it's played. Like even when they play really well on offense, they don't win. Even when they do nothing on offense, they can't win. Like there's really nothing they can do to try to figure that out, but very difficult nonetheless. And the Burrow news, but they would have liked to stay in this. Green Bay wins this game 27-20. Giants cover the 7.5 on the close. I actually forgot to write this down. What was the total in this one? Let's see.
What was the total? 42.5.
Total,
they went over the
42.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, over 42.5. To me, the injuries again, which a lot of today are the story here with Love and Jacobs. Love ends up coming back into the game. Jacobs possibly a bigger injury. I think they're suspecting PCL sprain. So maybe some Emmanuel Wilson going forward. But this one, an injury to Jacobs. Malik Willis always does what Malik Willis does, which is comes into the game, 2 for 2 passing, 6 yards, throws a touchdown, 1 rush, 16 yards. Everything is just fine. Jordan Love come back into the game. Believe me, I've got it. And that seems to be every time something happens with Green Bay. He seems to manage that offense really, really well. I know you were on Jacobs' rush attempts in this one. I mean, everything was right of script. I mean, Green Bay, 26 passes, 23 runs. It's just the injuries and weird things went on in this game that kind of took Green Bay out of rhythm. But nonetheless, Green Bay gets the win in a win they should have gotten, and the Giants get the cover after letting Dable go.
Yeah, we get a little dead cat bounce there. Jameis had them in it all the way down to the end until, of course, as all Jameis games end, with an interception in the end zone. So that's kind of how this went, but not really a very pretty result for the Packers. Just another one of those where they're big favorites and don't cover like they continue to do. They get the win, but just continue to be some warning signs there. The Jacobs injury, look, I'm team running backs don't matter. But Tucker Kraft is already out. We said he was the most important offensive player other than Jordan Love. The offensive line's getting some injuries. Has never quite been right this year. Now Jacobs, he's really important to that team as much as they run the football. Like, he is their identity there. And so we did, before the season, we did a ranking of offensive weapons, or skill players, as you call them. I did the update because I was curious. You take Jacobs out, you take Kraft out. And by the way, the receivers are still not healthy. Jaden Reed is out. Matthew Golden is kind of in and out of the lineup, and they're not really producing as it is. The Packers, if Jacobs is out for the foreseeable future, I have the Packers bottom 5 on skill position rankings now for a team that's supposed to be a Super Bowl contender. And I think right now I have serious concerns about this team. And I've been a team that's really been in on them all the way along, but they are 6-3-1. You got the Bears and Niners, both a bit fraudulent, but winning games and pushing, and the Panthers maybe. And they now just are running out of options on offense. And I will say this, though. Matt LaFleur gets a lot of crap, and I think he's not done a great job this year at times calling as the better team. I'm a little intrigued by Matt LaFleur as more of an underdog script. He seems to want to play defense and conservative football and win games that way. His team is kind of trending toward being that team, and it might accidentally set up the right way for him. I could kind of see it turning backwards into what worked out for him. I can't see them being the team that we all wanted them to be at this point. It just feels like we're like one more injury, or maybe even Jordan Love, you mentioned, got hurt. What if that shoulder isn't right? What if we get like an MRI back tomorrow and he's out a little bit? And we've seen Malik Willis keep things afloat a little bit with Matt LaFleur, but I feel like we're like one more injury away from calling this one of those years from hell from Green Bay. It's really teetering for them.
Well, as you say that, they are the favorites to win the NFC North at the current moment. They have 3 straight games against NFC North opponents, at home against the Vikings, at Detroit on Thanksgiving, and then at home against the Bears. So literally the next 3 weeks, everything in front of them, as they are favorites to win the division at the moment. The one trend kind of going on with Green Bay I put out earlier, they are now 0-6 against the spread this year as a 4-point favorite or higher. The first team to do that through 11 weeks since 1997 Packers also did it. 0-8-1 against the spread that year. And as of now, Green Bay -6.5 at home against the Vikings next week. So we will get that scenario once again. Anything else on this one? This one felt like a little weird. I felt like the Giants had opportunities. The same old Jameis game. I just love him to death. He does everything possible to keep you right around. And you look all over the box score, like really did a great job. 7 of 14 on third down, 3 of 14 on fourth down, 3 of 4. Just really, really good. But kind of where you end up.
Here's my last comment on this. I don't know if this was just me growing up. Growing up, you're playing football like out and like in recess, or playing with your buddies out on the lawn. Did you ever have like an all-time quarterback, like just the guy that played quarterback on both teams? Jameis Winston should be all-time quarterback. He's not on a roster anymore. He's just on whatever team needs a quarterback. Like Jordan Love's out. Jameis Winston, you're a Packer for next week. We need you to play quarterback for the Packers. You're all-time quarterback. We're just going to put you in where we need you. Burrow's out. Great. You play quarterback over here for a while. Jameis just makes games super fun. I think he should be all-time quarterback from now on.
See, I think I've heard that from a few people. I kind of just want him for fourth downs. Like anytime it's 4th and 10, I kind of want to just fly him in and pause the game. But
what about that we abolish onside kicks and you just have a 4th and 18 with Jameis at quarterback?
There you go. The Jameis kick instead. Understood. All right. Ravens and Browns. Ravens win this game 23-16. Cleveland covers the 7.5. Total goes over 37.5. Story of this game was just Baltimore getting tight in the red zone to me. 1 of 4, 5 of 13 on third down. Like they just kind of allowed Cleveland to stay around, which is pretty much the recipe for what Cleveland does when good teams go to travel to the dog pound, it seems. The defense just really disrupts and really keeps these games relatively close. But this is what I'm talking about when Baltimore getting down the field and kind of just stalling. So here are a bunch of drives. One drive, they end at the Cleveland 7. They get to the 3, end up kicking a field goal. They get to the Cleveland 32, they end up punting. They get to the Cleveland 5, they end up with a field goal. They get to the Cleveland 25, they end up with a field goal. Like, tons of opportunities for this to be a 10-point, 14-point, even 20-point game, which just got Baltimore in a real heap of trouble and kind of just relied on Derrick Henry to get him out of it.
Yeah, Cleveland's offense didn't do anything this entire game. So
Yikes.
Baltimore had to do the least possible, and frankly, they did. They did the least possible. They did just enough to get the job done. 104 in the red zone, 3-1 turnovers really is kind of what got the job done. But I feel like we're bearing the lead here. From a betting standpoint, both if you bet Browns, you got over by the hook there. And if you bet the over, you got in, depending on the line, it was 38.5, 37.5. Both lines ended up just kind of coming in on the hook there. But the other thing, Shedeur Sanders on a real professional football field. And boy, did he look like Shedeur Sanders. And by that, I mean, did you watch the preseason? Because it didn't go great for our guy. And it looked a lot like that today. Did you see the final stat line for Shedeur Sanders? 4 of 16 passing today for two sacks, 1 interception, minus 0.67 EPA per play, and minus 35 completion over expected. And guess what? Dylan Gabriel's in concussion protocol, and we pretty much never see quarterbacks clear from Sunday to the next week. Get ready, baby. Shedeur Sanders, first start in the NFL on the road next week. There's your spoiler alert. We're coming back to that one on the hot read.
And not only that, let's send them to Vegas for the first one. That's going to be what a ride that is against Max Crosby and the Raiders. That should be.
We need Jameis. Get Jameis and the Raiders. Jameis and the Raiders and Shedeur. That's the game we all need to watch next week.
All right. Well, Cleveland, it's Raiders, 49ers, and Titans coming up. I think the better story, obviously, the Ravens just keep winning. And the thing that would be great is this. So when they started 2-5, they needed to go 10-0 to go over their win total. Well, only 6 wins left. All right. I'm going to go score by score here. So Bears win the game, 19-17, cover plus 2.5 on the road, total under 47.5. I actually forgot to write down who tweeted this out, but it's super viral. If you check it out on Twitter, you will get it. But this is the stat that I had found. Kevin O'Connell called 16 pass plays this season on 3rd and 4th on short 3 or less with J.J. McCarthy. 0 completions. I'll say that one more time. Vikings, 16 pass plays this season on 3rd and 4th and short 3 or less. J.J. McCarthy, a quarterback, 0 completions. I think we all watched this game today, and I wasn't comfortable with Caleb Williams or J.J. McCarthy the entire time. But Chicago's defense, plus 16 on turnovers this year, which is crazy differential through 10 games. 15 interceptions on defense. Just wild stuff out there. I think the thing with the Bears, though, they're now 4-3 straight up this year when the opponent leads by 4+ points. Not that crazy, right? We talked about this earlier, just 4+ points. Well, they had not had a year where they were over 500 like that since 2010, and they were 25-86 in those games prior. 4-3 this year, so definitely a turnaround for Chicago. All right, San Francisco, Arizona. San Francisco wins 41-22, covers minus 3.5 on the road, total over 48.5. What to take away? Well, the only thing to take away from this one, Jacoby Brissett, 47 of 57 passing. San Francisco's pass defense is just goddamn atrocious. I just beg you to go look at the pass chart for Brissett in this one. It is ridiculous. Next quarterbacks to face San Francisco coming up: Bryce Young, Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, Danny Dimes, Caleb Williams, and Sam Darnold. That is just that feels both like a gauntlet and beatable based off the names this year, but very strange. And then I'll tell you this about the Cardinals: 0-4 straight up against the NFC West, 4-18 in their last 22 versus their own division. Absolutely goddamn terrible. And one more here. Houston beats Tennessee 16-13. Tennessee covers plus 5.5 at home. Total under 37.5. Nothing more Tennessee Titans right now than breaking a 14-game streak, having fewer touchdowns than your opponent, the longest streak since the 1970 Bucks, and ending it 1-1 against a team where you go down the field with 3 minutes left to score your first touchdown and then losing by a field goal basically at the buzzer. Tennessee ends up covering back-to-back games for the first time since week 2 of 2023. 2023, last time they covered back-to-back games. Ridiculous. And then Madrid this morning, Miami, 16-13 final, cover minus 2.5 on the close, total under 47.5. I don't know if anyone remembers this, but I'm going to tell you because this was from the AP and everyone was talking about this play call. But Dolphins end up being the second team since at least 2000 to go for it on 4th and goal from the 1 in the last 2 minutes of a tie game. Bengals did it in week 17 of 2021 versus the Chiefs, got the first down by penalty, took a knee, kicked the game-winning field goal. That is not how it worked out for Miami, but they still figured out a way to get there in the end. This is the great thing, though. Started 1-6, 3-1 in their last 4. We had talked about this last week. They were 80-1 to make the playoffs, now down to 50-1. But the thing that's this, New Orleans and the Jets coming up. So that sounds good. But Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Tampa, and New England to end the year feels like too high of a hill to climb. Here's the other one. I tweeted this out. Ridiculous. Washington since 2000 has had a win total of 8 or more 9 times. After the loss today, they're officially 9-0 to the under. In those 9 seasons, they had a win total of 8 or more. Basically, Washington hasn't exceeded expectations in a real season since before 2000. Been a long, long time. All right. Let's now go to Monday Night Football. So the line in this game, as I'm looking at it now, Dallas minus 3.5 on the road in the Raiders. The total sitting at 50. I mean, Dak just in this spot. I mean, Monday Night Football again with the Cowboys, but he is 4-0 straight up and against the spread on the road on Monday Night Football, covering by 9 points per game. And on the other side, Geno's been terrible. Since the beginning of 2024, Geno has started 6 games in primetime. His team is 1-5 straight up and against the spread. And overall, he has started 18 games in primetime at a 4-14 record. I mean, how are you looking at this game with two real – I mean, the thing that's tough is Dallas still fighting. I think the Raiders are toast-o, but there's going to be some fight for Pete, right?
Yeah, it's hard to get a read on what to expect out of this game. I think too, like on a serious note, it's the first game for Dallas out of the bye week after Marshawn Nealon's death as well. So
that's a good point.
What are the emotions going to be on that team? We don't really know. Like I would encourage some amount of caution coming into this game just as a better, because it's hard sometimes to know what that looks like, but we're going to still play. We're going to still find some angles. Martez Danny in the comments says, what's up? Can we get some good props for Cowboys Raiders? Thanks for sticking around, Martez. I think that Dallas is the better team here. I would actually have Dallas more like 5-point favorites here. But again, it's tough to get too excited about that margin for me and too excited in an emotional game here. And actually, the trends to me look under. This is another one of those double bye games. Remember, we talk about the double bye teams when you're rested. If the total's 40 or higher, 64% to the under. If it's 46 and above, 74% to the under. This total is basically about around 50. So it does look counterintuitive to what you think. Like maybe an under game. Raiders are 6-3 to the under. Primetime under is not Thursday night since 2019, 61%. Same this year as well. So a lot of under trends. If you want to kind of go counterintuitive and counterculture, maybe lean maybe under 50 there. Dallas's defense, I know what we thought, but they did trade for Quinnen Williams. This is his debut also. So maybe that helps them be like the 10th worst defense instead of the abject awful defense. And the Raiders haven't scored all year. They don't have a blocking. They don't have good receivers. So maybe the Cowboys can hang a little bit. Raiders defense has been pretty solid this year, like league average or better most of the season. So I would lean under. As far as my prop on the game, I'm going to not play a side or total personally for some of the reasons of uncertainty I said, but Dallas has allowed so far at least 22 every single game. So if the Raiders are ever going to score, they should score something here. And if they do score, it's probably Ashton Genty, right? Like the rookie is the guy scoring for them. He's got all 4 of their rushing touchdowns on the season. He's got 3 receiving. That's 3 of their 11 receiving. So overall, that's 15 touchdowns for the Raiders, 7 for Genty. And I know it doesn't feel like he's been that good, but that's half basically of their scores on the season. Last 6 games, Dallas against the running back 1 on the other team, 79 yards or more, 5 of the last 6, average 101 yards a game, and they've allowed a running back touchdown in 7 of 9 games this season. So I think, if anything, maybe a national TV breakout spot for the rookie, Ashton Genty. I like him for the touchdown, minus 140, your best number you can find. And I'm going to sprinkle 2 on Rookie of the Year. I still think Rookie of the Year is open. Tet McMillan had a big game today, but he's got a long way to go. Agbuka kind of down over the last month. Jackson Dart is out. We don't know how much he's going to play. It doesn't feel like we have a clear Rookie of the Year winner. And I know Genty, he was the favorite coming into the year. He hasn't done much, but his not done much is on pace right now for 1,300 combined yards and 14 scores. That's not terrible for not doing much. And if you get a good game against the Cowboys, you still get the Chargers. Look what they did today against the run. You get the Giants coming up, the worst team against the run. If he kind of pushes a little bit further, we might be looking at like 1,600 yards, 18, 20 scores on the season. That feels like Rookie of the Year. Genty's 50-1 right now at some books. So I'm going to take that as a Monday night play on top of the touchdown bet for Genty, minus 140.
I'm just going to pile on. The prop that I gave out on the favorites, at least one of them that kind of works into this, is I like Genty over 16.5 receiving yards. He is out there for a ton of pass snaps. He runs routes all the time. There's very little room for Mostert to do exactly what he does. Mostert's very different back in that offense. So Genty should be out there at all points. And Dallas gives up a ton to the running backs, especially from a yardage standpoint. That's why I took yardage over receptions in this one, because I think in the open field, there's a chance he can kind of get loose. And I think this is a little low. The other prop there I looked at was Tyler Lockett to score a touchdown. You look at his pass snaps since he entered this offense, not only last week, but the only thing he's doing is running routes. Not one pass block in 2 weeks. So basically, Pete Carroll making sure this guy is getting used to what he's doing right now, especially with Myers out the door. So I think he's ripe for a red zone target or 2. The other one, I honestly wanted much better odds on this, but I could also feel this being like an interception game. So I looked at both QBs to throw 2 picks. It's only 20-1. I was honestly hoping for a little bit more than that, but I honestly feel like with Geno, I think he leads the league in interceptions right now. Dak, not an interception guy. For him to throw 2 would be about 5-1. But either way, I feel like maybe both. What are both QBs to throw 1 pick? Might be something I could look at right now on DraftKings. That's like it's still only 250. But I like the Genty prop. I like the Lockett prop. Anything else?
No, let's do hot read.
All right. So if you want to tail some of these known night football bets, make sure to look for the quick slip link in the podcast and video description, or go to actionnetwork.com/bet now. You can also find those quick slips in the live YouTube chat if you're still hanging out with us, and we appreciate it. All right, Brandon, I think we teased them long enough. What are you doing for the hot read for next week?
Yeah, 2-0 hot read today. I think is our third 2-0 of the season. We got the Chiefs Broncos under. We got the big Panthers win as well. We teased the first one already. I can't not bet against Shedeur Sanders. How many chances are we going to get to bet against Shedeur Sanders? Dylan Gabriel, concussion protocol. I mean, look, I'm happy to bet against Dylan Gabriel as well, but I'm assuming Sanders. Give me the Browns Raiders under 37.5. We gave out Sanders stats a second ago. 4 of 16, 47 yards, 2 sacks, and a pick in relief. Just awful. And this game, to me, feels under all the way. You have 2 of the worst 5 offenses of football. We just talked about the Raiders in the Monday preview. And you have 2 pretty good defenses. The Browns defense is great. Number 4 DVOA entering the weekend. Number 1 against the run. And the Raiders are pretty good. They've been above the average most of the season. And If Monday night they actually hang in, and I'm going to bet this before the Monday game, then I think this total drops pretty quickly if everyone watches them sort of limit what everyone knows is a pretty good Dallas offense. So if that double buy under and some of those under trends hit, then I think this line can start to drop some. Raiders are 6-3 to the under already. They've had games this year with point total of 33, 31, 30, 29, 17. Those are all easily under this one. They're scoring 15.5 points a game, second to worst in the NFL. They've had 4 games already under 10 points. And you know that's possible against the Browns. It's Browns on the road, but if that offense isn't clicking, it could just go sideways. And then it's the Browns on the other side. We haven't gotten to the Shadur part. They've had games already with 38, 37, 33, 32, 23 points. That's the range we're looking for here. They had one good win over Miami. Outside of that game, 14.5 points a game. Since the start of last season, just take out the Jameis games. He's back again. But when he's not in there, Cleveland's averaging 14.5 points a game across 20 games as an offense. There's just no offense here. Neither team has blocking right now. The quarterback play is bad. We might get Shadur Sanders on the road in Vegas. No run game. Hopefully a little Genty on Monday night, and then he'll be all tired out in this one. I just like the defenses here. So give me the under 37.5. And look, if Shadur is the starter and this hasn't moved too much yet, it might be mineshaft season here.
Yeah, I mean, between these two teams, and I think more importantly, these two offenses, plus you look at the Raiders on a short week, I think there's lots to look at here. And when you see these totals set under 38, under 37, they're there for a reason, and it kind of goes with Brandon, what he's talking about here. All right, what's your second one?
Cassandra Futures says that they bet against potential Sanders already as well. So glad we're in this one together. Second one, I'm going to go with the Bengals. +7 against the Patriots in Cincinnati. To me, this is a kitchen sink spot for Cincinnati. This is it. 7 losses at home. Joe Burrow on deck. He's not going to be back for this one, but maybe the next one. Trey Hendrickson may be back, or he's waiting one more game as well. This is the spot that the Bengals have to get a win. They have got to go all in. It's a home spot against the Patriots, which to me, I've been in on the Patriots. I'm not quite Patriots Island, but I've bet them. I've got multiple playoff tickets. I don't think that they're as good as the 9-2 record in the top of the AFC. By DVOA, they're pretty close to a league average team so far in the season. They're not really blowing teams out. And look, in this matchup, I know Drake May's been amazing, but Drake May plus the rest of his dudes against Joe Flacco and his receivers, I think this is a shootout. I think this is a shootout all the way. Patriots defense is not really that great on the season. That's why Drake May is the MVP favorite, because he's not getting much help. It's him and nothing else. Not much weapons, not great blocking, not great defense. They're bottom 10, New England is, by DVOA on defense, including bottom 5 against the pass. So elite against the run, not the right matchup for Cincinnati. They don't want to run the football anyway. Great. We'll run even less and just bomb it to T and chase all game long. And I don't think the Patriots have an answer for that. Just feels shootout all the way. 7 points on the line. Give me that key number. I get this closer to a field goal in Cincinnati. I think they are live to win this game. It's a great spot to fade the Patriots, who are a bit overvalued. Underdogs that have lost and failed to cover 3 straight games. That Cincinnati, 106, 75-5 against the spread, 58%, 13% ROI on that team. And I'm not stopping there. Bengals +7. Give me the money line, +285. And one step further, let's end it right. Bengals escalator, hear me out, to win the division at 40-1 at DraftKings. Here's the case. The Bengals are 3 back right now. Of who? Pittsburgh and Aaron Rodgers, who's got a broken wrist or something going on there, and Baltimore, who's not really looking Baltimore-y right now. They're kind of getting some not that exciting of wins. I'm not convinced that that thing is closed off. Here's the Bengals schedule. Patriots, Ravens, Bills, Ravens. All year, that Ravens-Bills-Ravens stretch has looked overwhelming and daunting, but that's when Burrow's supposed to come back. For Ravens, Bills, Ravens, And guess which teams are feeling a bit underwhelming to all of us watching right now? The Ravens, the Bills, and the Ravens again. That's how underwhelming they're feeling. If the Bengals win this one, I think they probably need to go 3-1 in that stretch, get through it. They close Dolphins, Cardinals, Browns. It would be very Bengals to get all the way to the Browns game and blow it and then lose it. I'll say that. But we'll have chances to hedge if we get that close. I think if they go 3-1 here, set up for the big finish, 9-8 in the bad division, it's 40-1. I'm not telling you it's going to happen, but I think that they're more like 5, maybe 10% likely. 40-1 is around 2%. That's the Bengals. I think they're going to take care of the Patriots. I think they can beat the Patriots. Play the +7, play the money line. And I played the division before today. I'm doubling down and playing it again at 40-1, one more time on the Bengals.
There's nothing quite like knowing that when you watched Pittsburgh and Cincinnati today, saying to yourselves, this is the team I'm going forward with. But that's how you have to do it, because the odds end up kind of flipping in that direction when they look so bad. And that is week to week in the NFL. All right, that'll do it here on the Action Hour podcast for our NFL Week 11 recap episode presented by DraftKings. Give us a like on the YouTube video before you take off. We really appreciate it. And also go to actionhour.com/pro. Use a promo code POD20 for $20 off a year of Action Pro. And if you haven't yet, check out our new AI Quick Slip bot on X. Just tag Playbook. That's right, at Playbook, and tell it to grab whatever bets you're looking for, and it'll create a Quick Slip link for you in a matter of seconds. We'll be back for Action Island before Monday night's game right here on Action Hour's YouTube page, as well as more NFL best bets from Brandon, the six-pack from Raybon and Stuck, anytime touchdowns, and more on the podcast feed next week. Thank you for listening. Good luck with all your bets, and let us hit a 75-1 every single week. Enjoy. See you later, everyone.